Constantinople, 678 AD. Arab warships are burning in ways that shouldn't be possible. The flames don't behave like normal fire. Water doesn't extinguish them. It makes them worse. Arab sailors are diving overboard to escape the inferno consuming their vessels, and the fire follows them into the sea. The ocean itself is burning. Men are screaming, drowning, watching their flesh char while surrounded by seawater that should save them, but doesn't. This is Greek fire, the Byzantine Empire's secret weapon, a liquid incendiary that burned on water, stuck to everything it touched, and terrorized enemies for 8 centuries. The formula was guarded so closely that when Constantinople fell to the Ottomans in 1453, it died with the empire and has never been recovered. This is the story of the most fearsome weapon of the medieval world, of how a mysterious liquid fire saved Christian civilization from conquest, and of the desperate naval battles where Byzantine fire ships incinerated Arab fleets that should have been unstoppable. The Byzantine Empire in the mid-7th century was fighting for survival. For 1,000 years, Rome and its successor, the Byzantine Empire, had dominated the Mediterranean world. Then the Arab conquests began, and within 20 years, the Byzantines lost everything that mattered. Syria fell in 636 AD after the catastrophic Battle of Yarmouk. Egypt, the empire's breadbasket and richest province, was conquered by 642 AD. Mesopotamia was gone. North Africa was being systematically conquered. The Persian Empire, Rome's ancient enemy that had survived for over a millennium, was completely destroyed, absorbed into the expanding Islamic Caliphate. The Byzantines were in freefall. They'd lost 2/3 of their territory in a single generation. Egypt alone had provided 1/3 of imperial grain supplies and massive tax revenues. Syria and Palestine were wealthy, urbanized provinces with crucial trade routes and important cities. All conquered, the empire was reduced to Anatolia, the Balkans, some Italian holdings, and Constantinople itself. And the Arabs weren't done. They were coming for the capital. Here's what made the situation truly desperate. The Arabs were building a navy. The Byzantines had always relied on naval supremacy to protect Constantinople. The city sat on a peninsula surrounded by water on 3 sides: the Sea of Marmara, the Golden Horn Harbor, and the Bosphorus Strait. No land army could take Constantinople without controlling the sea approaches. Byzantine fleets had dominated Mediterranean waters for centuries, and the empire assumed that dominance was permanent. But the Arabs weren't desert raiders anymore. They'd conquered the eastern Mediterranean coastline, capturing shipyards, harbors, timber supplies, and most importantly, experienced shipwrights. Greek and Egyptian craftsmen who'd built Byzantine and merchant vessels for generations were now building ships for the Caliphate. By the 650s AD, Arab fleets were raiding Byzantine islands and coastal cities. By 674 AD, the Arabs had assembled a massive fleet and were ready to attack Constantinople directly. The Byzantines were outnumbered at sea for the first time in centuries. The first Arab siege of Constantinople began in 674 AD and lasted 4 years. This wasn't a continuous siege, but a series of annual campaigns. Arab forces would attack during sailing season, then withdraw for winter. The strategy was sound: blockade Constantinople by sea, cut off supplies and reinforcements, attack by land, and wait for the city to starve or fall to assault. The Arabs established a permanent naval base at Cyzicus, on the Asian shore of the Sea of Marmara, just across from Constantinople. They had hundreds of warships. The Byzantine fleet was smaller. By every military calculation, Constantinople should have fallen. Then the Byzantines deployed Greek fire. According to Byzantine sources, the weapon was invented by a man named Kallinikos, described as an architect or engineer from Heliopolis in Syria. He was a Christian refugee who'd fled Arab conquest and brought his invention to Constantinople. Whether Kallinikos actually invented Greek fire or just improved an existing incendiary formula is debated by historians, but what matters is that by 674 AD, the Byzantines had a weapon unlike anything the Arabs had encountered. Greek fire was a liquid incendiary mixture that could be projected from ships using siphons or tubes. When ignited, it produced flames that were almost impossible to extinguish. Water didn't put it out. In fact, water made it worse, causing the flames to spread and burn more intensely. The mixture stuck to whatever it touched: wood, cloth, flesh, and continued burning. Ships hit by Greek fire would be consumed in minutes. Sailors who jumped overboard found the flames following them onto the water's surface, creating pools of fire on the ocean that would burn for extended periods. The first time Arab fleets encountered Greek fire must have been absolutely terrifying. These were sailors and soldiers who'd conquered half the known world in a generation. They defeated Byzantine armies that were larger, better equipped, and more experienced. They destroyed the Persian Empire. They were confident, aggressive, and thought they were unstoppable. Then Byzantine ships approached and started shooting liquid fire at them. The Arab crews had no frame of reference for this weapon. Traditional incendiary weapons existed: burning arrows, pots of flaming pitch, fire ships loaded with combustibles. But these could be fought with water and could be avoided through maneuver. Greek fire was different. It projected through the air in a stream, arcing onto enemy vessels from distances that made counterattack difficult. Once it hit, the flames spread rapidly, consuming rigging, sails, oars, and deck planking. The heat was intense enough to crack timbers and ignite tar-caulked seams. And most terrifying of all, trying to extinguish the flames with seawater made them worse. Byzantine sources described the panic Greek fire caused. Arab crews would abandon ships at the first sight of Byzantine fire ships approaching. Experienced sailors who'd weathered storms and sea battles would break discipline and jump overboard when they saw the characteristic flames shooting from Byzantine siphons. The psychological impact was as important as the physical destruction. Greek fire didn't just sink ships, it broke enemy morale and turned naval combat into a nightmare where the ocean itself became a weapon that killed you. The Byzantines used Greek fire strategically during the siege. They didn't have unlimited quantities, the formula was complex, and the ingredients expensive, so they couldn't waste it. Byzantine dromons, the empire's standard warships, were modified to carry fire projectors. These were bronze tubes or siphons mounted on the bow, usually on rotating mounts, so they could be aimed. The liquid Greek fire was stored in pressurized containers, possibly heated to maintain proper viscosity. When fired, the mixture was forced through the siphon, using compressed air or a pump mechanism, and ignited as it exited, creating a stream of burning liquid that could reach targets 10 to 15 meters away. Byzantine tactics evolved around Greek fire in sophisticated ways that showed genuine military innovation. Dromons equipped with fire projectors would approach Arab formations, typically at dawn or dusk when visibility favored surprise attacks, but provided enough light for accurate aiming. Byzantine commanders developed specific tactical doctrines for Greek fire deployment. They'd target enemy flagships or ships carrying important commanders first, aiming to create chaos and break command structure. The death or incapacitation of a fleet commander could cause entire squadrons to lose coordination, making them vulnerable to follow-up attacks. The Byzantines understood the psychological impact as much as the physical destruction. Once an enemy ship was burning, nearby vessels would try to rescue survivors or would pull away to avoid the spreading flames, creating gaps in formation that other Byzantine ships could exploit. These gaps allowed Byzantine dromons without Greek fire to penetrate enemy lines and conduct ramming attacks or boarding actions. Greek fire didn't just destroy enemy ships directly, it disrupted enemy formations and created tactical opportunities for conventional attacks. The Byzantines also perfected the use of fire ships, vessels deliberately loaded with Greek fire and combustibles that would be sailed into enemy formations and ignited. This tactic required incredible courage from the crews who manned these fire ships. They'd sail directly into the middle of enemy fleets, surrounded by hostile vessels, then ignite the Greek fire and escape in small boats before the flames consumed their ship. Fire ships were positioned to drift into concentrations of enemy vessels, carried by wind and current into the densest parts of enemy formations, where a single fire ship could ignite multiple enemy vessels. The siphon delivery system itself represented advanced medieval engineering. The bronze tubes had to be precisely manufactured to withstand the pressures and temperatures involved in projecting ignited Greek fire. The rotating mounts required metalworking skills that few medieval societies possessed. The pressurization systems, whether using compressed air, manual pumps, or heated expansion of gases, had to generate enough force to project the liquid 10 to 15 meters while maintaining accuracy. Byzantine naval arsenals employed specialized craftsmen who did nothing but manufacture and maintain these siphon systems, treating the technology with the same security and care as the Greek fire formula itself. Storage and handling of Greek fire aboard ships created additional challenges. The liquid had to be kept in sealed containers that prevented evaporation and contamination, but could be quickly accessed during combat. The mixture was apparently volatile enough that rough handling or exposure to sparks could cause accidental ignition, making it dangerous to store aboard wooden ships. Byzantine crews received special training in Greek fire handling and deployment, learning how to operate the siphons, how to estimate range and lead targets, and critically, how to avoid setting their own ships on fire. Accidents happened. Byzantine sources occasionally mention ships destroyed by accidental Greek fire ignition, though these incidents were rare enough to be noteworthy when they occurred. The Arab fleet, attempting to blockade Constantinople in 674-678 AD, suffered catastrophic losses. Byzantine sources, which certainly exaggerate, claim the Arab fleet was largely destroyed. What's certain is that by 678 AD, after 4 years of campaigning, the Arabs gave up. They made peace, agreed to pay annual tribute to the Byzantines, and withdrew their forces. The empire that had been on the verge of collapse had not only survived, but had forced its attackers into a humiliating settlement. Greek fire had saved Constantinople, but the weapon's strategic value went beyond just winning battles. Greek fire became a Byzantine state secret, guarded more carefully than any other imperial asset. The formula was known only to the emperor and a small group of trusted officials. It was manufactured in imperial workshops under strict security. The penalties for revealing the secret to foreigners were severe: execution, confiscation of property, and according to religious texts, eternal damnation. Emperor Constantine VII Porphyrogenitus wrote in the 10th century that Greek fire was revealed to Constantine the Great by an angel, and that God would punish anyone who shared the secret with non-Christians. This wasn't just military security. It was treated as a religious obligation. The exact composition of Greek fire remains unknown. No complete formula survives in any Byzantine text. Medieval sources mention it, but never give enough detail to reproduce it. Modern historians and chemists have spent decades trying to figure out what was in Greek fire based on descriptions of its behavior and effects. The most widely accepted theory is that the base was petroleum or naphtha, liquid hydrocarbons that were available from natural seeps in the Middle East. This explains why Greek fire was liquid, highly flammable, and could float on water. The mixture almost certainly included additional ingredients to enhance its properties. Sulfur was probably added because it burns intensely and produces the thick, acrid smoke that Byzantine sources describe. Pine resin or pitch was likely included to make the mixture sticky, so it would adhere to ships and sailors rather than running off or being easily scraped away. Some historians believe quicklime, calcium oxide, was a key ingredient because it reacts violently with water, generating intense heat. This would explain why Greek fire couldn't be extinguished with water and might actually burn more fiercely when wet. But here's the frustrating part for anyone trying to understand Greek fire. We don't know the exact formula, the proportions, or the preparation methods. The Byzantines were so successful at keeping the secret that when the empire fell in 1453, the knowledge died with it. Various attempts have been made to recreate Greek fire using different combinations of petroleum, sulfur, quicklime, and resins. Some of these modern mixtures produce impressive results, burning on water and resisting extinguishment, but we can't be certain they match the original Byzantine formula. What we do know is that Greek fire gave the Byzantines a decisive advantage in naval warfare for centuries. The Second Arab Siege of Constantinople in 718 AD demonstrated this even more dramatically than the first siege. The Arab Caliph Sulayman ibn Abd al-Malik assembled a massive expedition. Contemporary sources claim 1,800 ships and 120,000 troops, though modern historians think these numbers are exaggerated, probably inflated by Byzantine chroniclers to make the eventual victory seem more impressive. Even accounting for exaggeration, this was clearly an enormous force, possibly the largest military operation the Caliphate had yet launched against a single target. The siege began in the summer of 717 AD, with the Arab fleet entering the Dardanelles and approaching Constantinople from the south. The new Byzantine Emperor, Leo III, the Isaurian, had come to power only months earlier through a military coup that deposed the previous emperor. His position was precarious, his legitimacy questionable by Byzantine standards, and he faced the largest Arab assault Constantinople had ever seen. The political situation in Constantinople was unstable. Leo had enemies within the city who might have preferred negotiating surrender to the Arabs rather than enduring a long siege under a usurper emperor. The Arabs knew this and were counting on internal Byzantine divisions to weaken the defense. But Leo proved to be a capable military commander and a ruthless political operator. He secured the loyalty of the army through payments and promises. He executed or exiled potential rivals. He secured the city's grain supplies and prepared for a long siege. And most importantly, he had Greek fire and commanders who knew how to use it effectively. The Arab fleet entered the Sea of Marmara, expecting to establish a blockade. Byzantine ships equipped with Greek fire attacked immediately, striking at dawn when visibility was poor and the Arab crews were unprepared. The engagement was catastrophic for the Arabs. Byzantine dromons, faster and more maneuverable than the Arab vessels, darted in and out of the enemy formation, shooting streams of liquid fire at Arab ships. Entire sections of the Arab fleet were engulfed in flames within minutes. Arab sailors abandoned burning ships, creating chaos and confusion throughout the fleet. Byzantine fire ships, vessels deliberately loaded with combustibles and Greek fire, were sailed into the densest parts of the Arab formation and ignited, creating massive infernos that consumed multiple ships simultaneously. According to Byzantine accounts written by the chronicler Theophanes, the Arabs lost most of their ships in the initial engagements. Modern historians are skeptical of claims that the entire Arab fleet was destroyed in a single battle. But even allowing for exaggeration, Arab losses were clearly severe enough that they couldn't maintain an effective naval blockade. Ships that survived the Greek fire attacks withdrew to safe anchorages and refused to engage Byzantine vessels directly. The Arab plan to starve Constantinople through a naval blockade had failed before the siege even properly began. Without naval control, the Arab land forces couldn't be supplied properly. The winter of 717 was harsh, and the Arab army camped outside Constantinople's walls suffered from cold, hunger, and disease. Byzantine diplomacy convinced the Bulgars to attack the Arab forces from the rear. Arab reinforcements attempting to reach Constantinople by sea in 718 AD were destroyed by Byzantine ships using Greek fire. By August 718 AD, the Arabs had lost perhaps 80% of their army and most of their fleet. The siege was abandoned, and the survivors retreated back to Syria. It was one of the most decisive defeats in Arab military history, and one of the most important Byzantine victories. Greek fire continued to give the Byzantines naval superiority for centuries. During the Byzantine-Arab naval wars of the 8th and 9th centuries, Greek fire was the decisive weapon in most major engagements. At the Battle of Atael in 86, a small Byzantine fleet used Greek fire to destroy a much larger Arab force. At the Battle of Thassos in 829 AD, Byzantine fire ships broke an Arab blockade. Time and again, Byzantine commanders used Greek fire to defeat numerically superior enemies. The Byzantines also used Greek fire against other enemies. When Russian fleets attacked Constantinople in 941 AD, Greek fire incinerated their ships. Byzantine sources describe Russian survivors returning home with stories of the Byzantines having lightning from heaven that they could direct at their enemies. The Russians called Greek fire liquid fire and developed such fear of it that some Russian sources claimed the Byzantines could summon fire from the sky through sorcery. When the Byzantines needed to impress or intimidate foreign ambassadors, they would sometimes demonstrate Greek fire, projecting streams of flame from ships in the harbor as a show of power. The strategic impact of Greek fire extended beyond its battlefield effectiveness. The weapon gave the Byzantines a deterrent capability that prevented attacks. Arab caliphs knew that attacking Constantinople by sea meant facing Greek fire, and after the disasters of 678 and 718, they were reluctant to risk their fleets. This allowed Constantinople to survive despite being surrounded by hostile powers and despite frequent Byzantine military defeats on land. As long as the capital's walls held and the Byzantine fleet controlled the sea approaches with Greek fire, The empire could survive, but Greek fire had limitations. It was expensive to produce, requiring ingredients that had to be imported or extracted from limited natural sources. The siphons and delivery systems required skilled metalworkers to manufacture and maintain. The weapon was most effective in naval combat and in defending fortified positions with access to water. It was less useful in land battles or in offensive campaigns. The Byzantines developed handheld versions of Greek fire projectors for infantry use, small siphons or tubes that could shoot flames short distances, but these were never as effective as the ship-mounted weapons. There's also evidence that Greek fire's effectiveness declined over time. Arab and other enemies learned defensive measures. Ships could be equipped with hides soaked in vinegar or urine, which provided some protection against incendiary weapons. Crews could use long poles with buckets to dump sand or dirt on flames, which was more effective than water for extinguishing Greek fire. Naval tactics evolved to avoid close-quarters engagements, where Byzantine fire ships could be most effective. By the later medieval period, other incendiary weapons and gunpowder weapons began to appear that could match or exceed Greek fire's destructive capability. The Byzantine monopoly on Greek fire also wasn't absolute. Despite the security measures, knowledge of incendiary weapons spread. The Arabs developed their own versions of liquid fire, naft in Arabic, using petroleum-based mixtures. These Arab incendiaries weren't identical to Greek fire. They probably lacked some ingredients or used different formulas, but they were effective enough that by the 10th century, Arab forces were using incendiary weapons against Byzantine ships. The Crusaders encountered incendiary weapons during the Crusades and brought knowledge of them back to Europe. By the 13th century, various forms of liquid fire and incendiary mixtures were known throughout the Mediterranean and Middle East. But here's what's remarkable. Even as incendiary weapons became more common, the Byzantines maintained the specific Greek fire formula as a state secret. Other powers had liquid fire. Only the Byzantines had Greek fire. The original formula that the empire claimed was divinely inspired, and that remained the most effective version of the weapon. When the Fourth Crusade sacked Constantinople in 1204 AD, destroying much of the city and fragmenting the Byzantine Empire, Greek fire production apparently ceased or was severely disrupted. When the Byzantines recaptured Constantinople in 1261 AD, they tried to restart Greek fire production, but it's unclear whether they successfully recovered the full original formula or had to work with incomplete knowledge. By the final centuries of the Byzantine Empire, Greek fire appears less frequently in military accounts. This might be because the formula was lost, or because the empire lacked the resources to produce it in significant quantities, or because gunpowder weapons were making incendiary liquids obsolete. When the Ottomans besieged Constantinople in 1453, there's no mention of the Byzantines using Greek fire in the defense. The weapon that had saved the city 8 centuries earlier was apparently no longer available. When Constantinople fell to the Ottomans on May 29, 1453, the Byzantine Empire ended, and with it died the secret of Greek fire. No one in the Ottoman Empire knew the formula. No Byzantine refugee brought the knowledge to Western Europe. The few Byzantine texts that mentioned Greek fire didn't include complete formulas or preparation instructions. Within a generation, Greek fire went from a closely guarded state secret to a historical mystery. Modern attempts to understand Greek fire have produced theories but no certainties. Chemical analysis of Byzantine shipwrecks hasn't yielded clear evidence of incendiary residues. Medieval texts provide clues but not blueprints. The best modern reconstructions create impressive incendiary mixtures that burn on water and resist extinguishment using combinations of petroleum distillates, sulfur, quicklime, and resins. These work well enough to demonstrate that such weapons were feasible with medieval technology. But whether they match the original Byzantine formula remains unknown. What we can say with certainty is that Greek fire was one of the most effective weapons of the medieval period and one of the best kept military secrets in history. For 8 centuries, from the 670s to the 1400s, the Byzantines maintained a technological advantage based on a chemical formula. Greek fire saved Constantinople from Arab conquest at least twice, in 678 and 7018 AD. It gave the Byzantine fleet dominance in Mediterranean naval warfare for centuries. It terrified enemies and deterred attacks. It was legendary in its own time and remains legendary today. The story of Greek fire is ultimately about how a single weapon can change the course of history. Without Greek fire, Constantinople almost certainly would have fallen to the Arabs in 678 or 718 AD. The Byzantine Empire would have ended 1,000 years earlier than it did. The cultural and religious heritage of Greek Christianity would have been absorbed into the Islamic world. The knowledge preserved in Byzantine libraries, ancient Greek texts that would inspire the Renaissance, might have been lost or scattered. The geopolitical balance of the medieval Mediterranean would have been completely different. Greek fire also shows how the loss of technology can be permanent and complete. The Byzantines guarded their secrets so carefully that when the empire fell, the knowledge disappeared entirely. We have nuclear weapons today, and the basic physics is understood widely enough that even if one nation lost the technology, others could recreate it. But Greek fire was different. The formula died with the empire, and despite centuries of investigation by historians and chemists, we still don't know exactly what was in it or how it was made. So here's the legacy: a mysterious liquid that burned on water, that terrified armies and destroyed fleets, that saved an empire and shaped medieval history, and whose formula remains unknown 14 centuries after its first use. Greek fire was the ultimate secret weapon, so secret that it's still secret today, lost to history, but never forgotten. The weapon that incinerated Arab fleets and saved Constantinople became a legend in its own time and remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of military history. A testament to Byzantine ingenuity and to the power of keeping secrets.